Thank you so much for joining us for worship at the warehouse this morning. If you're visiting with us, we want to extend a very special welcome to you. With the holidays coming up, we have a lot going on in the church. Some of it's in your bulletin. Some of it we're going to share with you today. Pay attention to your social media. We'll try and remind people of that. Your regular weekly schedules in your bulletin, including your Wednesday night activities. So pay attention to those going on. Just remember, we're going to be ordering our new warehouse t-shirts in the next couple weeks. There's a sign-up sheet over by the coffee pot. If you want to sign up for one of those today, you don't have to pay until they come in. I'm just trying to get a number before I order. It'll make a great Christmas gift to the one that you love. So make sure you grab a pen over there and sign up for the warehouse t-shirts. A few things coming up I want to highlight. Next Sunday, our giving trees are going to be up in both services. That's a program we've done here the last 5 or 6 years where we find families in need, find out what they need help with at Christmas, and there'll be ornaments on the giving trees that you can take and pick the gift out and bring it back to church. We're going to wrap those on a Sunday in December, so pay attention to that. We're also next week, in honor of and in consideration of Thanksgiving, we're going to have a table set up with some thank you notes, and we're going to encourage people next week to think about somebody in your life that you interact with that you want to thank them for what they've done for you over the past year. You'll have an opportunity to fill out the note. We'll have those set up here next week. Also, I want to remind everybody or let everybody know that we need to congratulate Paige and Clint Gilchrist on the birth of their new son. And I have no idea what his name is. Church. I didn't. That's very cool. I wish I'd known that before. I would have made a slide. His name is Church. He was born, I think, Friday night, yesterday. So anyway, there's some pictures on Paige's Facebook page if you want to see pictures of the baby. We're going to take up the offering today on the back table. If you have change, throw that in our buckets. We use that for mission projects, and your regular offering to the church you can put in the basket. You can also give through our Venmo address, which is on the slide. And if you have Venmo and you want to do it later or something, if you just do a search for Camilla United Methodist Church, it will pull up for you. And so think about all those announcements as we go through the week. Be prepared for that next week. And we're going to watch a video, then we'll do one more song, and then we'll call Peter Ford.
One time I was waiting for the bus with my son. I remember it was so hot outside and he hadn't had a nap. It seemed like the bus was never going to come. And then this old man walked up. The hat he was wearing stood out to me. I remember that. My son was not giving in, but it didn't seem to bother the man. He looked over at me and said, "Looks like you got a real precious one there." I thanked him and looked down the street, hoping to see the bus coming. Honestly, I was probably just embarrassed by the way my son was acting, but before I knew it, he was off on his way. I couldn't help it. I felt compelled to say it. So I just called after him. "Sir? Sir?" And he turned around. I said, "I just wanted to say thank you for your service." And I'll never forget this moment. He smiled real wide at me like he'd known me my whole life, gently tipped his hat and said, "You're very welcome. You were worth it."
Spirit
seated. Thank you.
People, I don't want to complain, and I know you know I talk to Jesus all the time, because I tell you that, Jesus will tell you the same thing. But with that said, it's come to my attention that some of you are getting sick, and you're telling Jesus, but Jesus ain't telling me. And so it's hard for me to know when to come visit you if you don't call me up and say, hey, I'm sick, I'd like to visit. Or at least tell a friend. And I told Jesus, I said, well, can you tell me? And he said, no, thankfully he wants you to take responsibility for your own lives and actually pick up the phone and call me. He figures you can do that. So if you get sick, can you give me a call? I'd love to pray for you over the phone or come visit you or bring you some of my infamous soup. I will bring you soup, and it'll be hot. It might be tasty, but it'll definitely be hot. You can eat it or throw it away. Okay? So that's my first one. My second one is on a more deeper level. Is do we have anybody that's a veteran this morning? Like anybody from the Marines? Could you stand? Anybody in the Air Force, infantry, anybody in the Navy, Merchant Marine or Coast Guard? Okay. How about anybody that's a parent or grandparent of a loved one that served or is serving? Anybody got family in the service? No, there you go. You're not going to stand for me? No. Okay. Okay. So, anyway, if you have a family member or you are a veteran, I want to thank you for your service. I wore my veteran outfit just to let you know that I know something about being a veteran, but I didn't do it to get accolades. I just did it to help. And you know, understand that I do understand something about being a veteran. So that's my first one. The second one has got actually nothing to do with anything, but my daughter Rebecca is going to college and she wants to move off campus and move into a camper. Well, I can't afford a camper, and so if you've got a camper lying around in your backyard somewhere that you haven't used in a long, long time, and you wouldn't mind my daughter staying in it up in Cochrane, so that we can afford for her to stay there. Kind of talk to me sometime after church next week. Now we'd love to use it, or try and work out something with you on that. Okay, that's that one. Getting back to veterans, I thought a lot about veterans, and if you really want to appreciate something about veterans, there is a museum up in Columbus that has all your Medal of Honor recipients and their stories. And there's some pretty bad, I can't use that word, donkey people. There's some pretty tough guys. I actually was influenced by one of them to become a Christian. I was in a Seventh-day Adventist school, and you have a Medal of Honor recipient in this country that never carried a gun. Think about that. And he served in Vietnam. His dad was a soldier. His dad was a severe alcoholic, and they didn't get along too good. I think his dad was actually a crop duster. But he joined. But he didn't want to carry a gun, which kind of, in the beginning, if you do that, you get beat up and you get teased and you get messed around. And so eventually they decided they'd make him a medic. And he was dispatched to Vietnam, and he went up this thing called Heartbreak Ridge, which was actually more like a cliff. And the job was for these Vietnamese soldiers to go over the cliff and then take the cliff. And they did. And a lot of them got killed, and they were left lying around on the cliff while he came to. And so he spent the whole night getting these people over the cliff, a couple, I don't know, between 60 and 100 plus. He actually brought some of the soldiers down. I can't remember Japanese or Vietnam, but anyway, he did this. And because of his bravery, over 2-3 days, he got the Medal of Honor award at the end. And I thought, well, if anybody could be a Christian and hold their belief that, killing people is against their values, and receive it, that is some kind of person that I would like to follow. And so I kept up with him. And there were some others that I learned about. And so this morning, that's what I'd like for you to get for. But let me read a couple of scriptures that go with it. The first one is, give to everyone what you owe them. And if you owe them taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. Respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. And the second one that I'd like to share is to do with Jesus and some soldiers in Luke's Gospel. And if you'd like to follow on that one, you can put out your handy-dandy cell phones or your Bibles or wherever you keep your sword. And it reads as follows, Luke's Gospel, chapter 23, verse 31, and I know I didn't hand it out to be put up. And it reads, and there were also 2 other malefactors, led them to be put to death. And when they came to the place which is called Calvary, there they were crucified. And the malefactors, one on the right and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his remnant and cast lots. And the people stood there, and behold, and they also derailed him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself. If he be Christ, the chosen one. And the soldiers then mocked him, I know that in the military, one of the hardest things to be as a Christian, I've watched people being mocked. I've seen them have their boots thrown at Christians. I've seen people put rocks and stuff into pillowcases and beat up on a Christian at night, and then say, well, ask Jesus to say who hit you. And they really have a tough time. But those that go through it and survive at some level have the deep respect of the rest of the soldiers, and very often are turned to for advice. So what can we learn from veterans this morning? Well, if you're an American veteran, the first thing you do when you become a soldier is you make a vow to defend America against all foe, domestic and abroad, if I remember correctly. And so that's what they do, and that's their mission. That's their mission in life, to defend this country from your enemies, and then to keep you safe. And the reason you're sitting here this morning is because they've done a pretty good job. Think about it. How many of you have ever been conquered by another nation? I think the only time America ever had a fight was during the Civil War. I think after you ran the British off, you've done a pretty good job in keeping your country fairly safe. I know the Japanese had a couple of bombs fall off in Northern California, and a couple of Japanese landed in the northern part of Alaska. But besides that, this country has been pretty safe. I think the worst thing that's ever happened is September 9/11, and then also Pearl Harbor. But with that said, most of us are being safe because of the wonderful job our military does. The second thing I think we can learn from the military is that they are dedicated to the cause even unto death, and that they're willing to die for what they fight for. Now that's pretty powerful. When I was in the military, we had this guy called General Patton. Maybe you're familiar with him, the eccentric general from America. He used to say, don't die for your country, make the other fools die for theirs. That's what he said. But with that said, it's a lot harder to do than to say. And I've been in the military, I've been in active combat, and apparently the other side doesn't always get the memo. They're not too willing to die for their country any more than we are for ours. Then the third thing is they are willing to sacrifice themselves for their brother. And I'd like to make a parallel to somebody that I think is awesome, and that's Jesus. Jesus and Christians, we have a mission, and that's to win the lost for Christ. Our job is to share our faith with others. On Wednesday nights, I'm doing a thing called The One. And our job is to get people to want to go to heaven. And I don't know about you, but have you ever thought about heaven? Our mission is to get people to want to go there. And that's why I don't understand why some people preach about hell all the time, because they're preaching in a way that they want people to go there. The most beautiful picture I had from heaven was when I heard about this little girl who believed Bibles turned into rainbows in heaven. And in heaven you have puppy dogs and kitty cats. And in heaven you actually get to sleep with your puppy dog or kitty in your bed, and they stay there all night. And they don't pee on the floor, and you don't have to clean it up. Sounds like a pretty cool kind of heaven for me. And they talked about all the cakes and cookies and cupcakes you could get in heaven. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this child is on to heaven in a way that I never ever thought. If you've ever been in Africa and you've starved, anybody of you ever starved or have your secret stash of food because you don't know where your next meal is coming from? For most of those people, heaven's not ever having to go hungry again. For some of us, if we've been through abuse or been misused or treated badly, heaven is never ever having to go through that again. Heaven's been able to be in a place where you can trust people. Heaven's a place where you know you're safe. For some of us, heaven means something very different. I don't know what heaven's going to look like for you. You know, there's one song, when we go to heaven, will we dance in his presence? Will we fall down at his feet? And, will we take the boy fishing? I mean, I don't know. But we're supposed to be so in love with heaven that we want to share it with our friends. And so our mission, that's what it is. And if I say to you, can you tell somebody in 10 seconds why you want to go to heaven? Can you do that? That's your homework, okay? No, that's the first one. Secondly, as veterans, we also learn to be willing to die for a cause. That one veteran I talked about that gave his life, he didn't die, but he was willing to risk it to save all those soldiers. That's what Jesus does. We bring people to get that. I think of one story that I like. There's so many of them that it's hard to choose. But during the Civil War, there was a town up in the north that was attacked by the Confederate soldiers. And they took over the town for a couple of hours, and then the Union came over and took them and put them, about 10 of them, in prison. And there was one guy they really, really wanted to capture, so they said that they would kill 10 Confederate soldiers unless this person turned himself in. And so they waited and waited, and the guy never turned himself in. Instead, they sent in 10 wagons with 10 coffins. And there was no turning back from that. Well, come to find out, one of the men was married with children. So one of the younger men that was not condemned to death went up and said, I would like to take the place of this married man because he has a wife and children, and I am just a single young man. I have nothing to lose. He has a whole family that he needs to take care of. And I said, sure, we'll swap you out. Well, you can go to that town today and you'll find on that coffin, it says, here lies so-and-so, the soldier that died for this person, and that person was my father. Our job as Christians, our job, like many vets, is to bring people to Christ, be willing to help them find Him, because He's willing to make that bigger sacrifice in our lives. While I was in the military, I got to meet a lot of Christians. Some of them were pretty superficial. Some of them were Christians because they were scared of dying. But when we came to our end of our service, we were like, oh snap. We have to spend the rest of our life after all this. Some became adrenaline junkies. Some of them went in all different forms of service. But I chose to become a pastor or a missionary to America because you see, number one, I like the country and I like the fried chicken. But number two, I found out that there was a missionary that was willing to come to South Africa and share their faith with me and to be separated from his family so that I can learn about a Jesus that will love me no matter what. And so this morning, as a South African veteran, and more importantly, as a child of God, I know many of you have been hurting, and from what I've heard, many of you had some bad experiences in church. And some of you probably are very skeptic about what Jesus can do for you. But I'm here to tell you that what Jesus is doing in South Africa, and what Jesus is doing in China, and what Jesus is doing all over the world, he can do in the sanctuary. He can forgive you. He can touch your hearts. He can renew your hearts. He can give you a second chance. And he can help you to learn to fall in love with him all over again if you would just give him a chance. He's just that awesome. Thank you for listening to me this morning. And I pray you get to learn about Jesus' love as deeply as I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Please stand with us, and we will close out the service.
crashing wave, my blessed
One by one, stones fell where they lay. As one by one, my accusers walked away. With nothing left to throw, they made a cross. Knowing only love could count the cost. You were there for all this time, like a river running through my veins. You carried me all this time, like the splinters buried in your shoulder. Your love carried all my shame. Jesus, how my soul will praise you. You carried me all this way, like a diamond and stars upon your crown. You carried me. Oh, hallelujah. If ever now my heart cries, hallelujah. If ever now in the waters of your grace, 1,000 times, 1,000 years my soul will say, oh, hallelujah. Forever now in the greatness of my Savior. Forever now in the brightness of your name. Jesus, on this rock I sing your praise.
Thank you for listening once again. I was thinking that, in Israel, they have 2-minute silence on Memorial Day for all the Holocaust victims. The whole country shuts down for 2 minutes. The highways, the aeroplanes, everything shuts down. And for 2 minutes, you step out your car, and wherever you are, you have 2-minute silence. It's just a strange situation to behold. Think about all the broken and hurt people in this country who have been hurt by church. Think about all the people that have been hurt because of unhealthy love. Let's have a moment of silence for them and pray that God will put someone in their lives to bring them back to His love. And that person may be you. Have a moment of silence. Dear God,